God damn it, January, you were supposed to stay quiet and uneventful so I could get my end of the year lists done. Fuck you gotta be so front-loaded for. Forgive me for being way behind on these particular reviews, guys. I figured we could at least address the two most notable releases that came out in January, if absolutely nothing else before the month ends. Or at least the ones I care most about. Sorry, Soilwork. Maybe we can get to you in a ketchup or a Fimmy or something. But for now, yeah, this thing is definitely the record that everyone else is talking about right now. For better or for worse. Yeah, this one. It's a bit contentious, isn't it? I've heard all the uproars surrounding this one already. Beat boop the horizon, bring me the horrible trap beats, bring me the refund. Oh, y'all so clever and witty. So how do I feel about it? Well, truth be told, I don't hate it, but I definitely say this album is far from perfect. I do have some issues here. A lot of frustration around this record seems to be pointed at their shift in sound. I mean, to those of you who were into this band back when they were a loud, ravenous deathcore thrash fest, you guys can go ahead and skip this one. Hell, in the track Heavy Metal, they all but tell you to do so. Horizon have been shifting towards more of an electronica-based, mainstream rock and pop kind of vibe for years, and on this record, I'd say that vibe has finally been turned all the way up to 11. Hell, I'm almost impressed at how far they've been able to distance themselves from their original sound. If this album were to be your first exposure to this band, you would be in for a hell of a surprise if you went into their back catalog. But truth be told, even with the cavernous distance between this album and their older stuff, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, you can't say the band didn't warn you about this, people. Across albums like Sempiternal and That's the Spirit, they've been making heavy shifts towards something more atmospheric and moody. I mean, this album shouldn't be news to any of you. It's not like they went to bed as Cattle Decapitation and woke up the next morning as Delight. If you've been paying even a moderate amount of attention to this band, you saw this change in sound coming. And truth be told, I've always kind of preferred their more electronic sound personally. I mean, since my last review on these guys, I've had more time to actually dig back into their heavier, more deathcore stuff, and I don't know, it's not bad, but none of it made me particularly moist. To me, this band only became more interesting around Sempiternal when the dreaded atmospherics started creeping in. To be fair, I think the electronic sort of vibe they're going for fits them a lot better than just their rote standard deathcore skin. I really dug the direction they were moving in. So if I do dig their electronic side so much, and this album is their most electronic to date, why am I not all over this thing like a bulldog on brisket? It's kind of hard to put my finger on. I kind of was all over it at first. I have to admit, the first half of this album is fairly solid. Mantra has a nice little gallop to it. Wonderful Life is catchy as hell, and it's always nice to see Danny Filth out there still, you know, filthing it up. And Medicine is actually a really well done little rock banger, as long as you don't watch the music video. Is this Vor? I really enjoyed my first spin with this album, but I gotta admit, there's a lot here that didn't hold up after 2 or 3 spins, if you get my gist. I mean, Nihilist Blues is just boring and soggy, and it's a waste of good Grimes. Sugar, Honey, Ice, and Tea is a super duper dumb song, especially by these guys' standards. And really, after Medicine, the whole album loses a lot of momentum. The trap beats and dozy inflections and more tired electronic sounds come in super strong on Why You Gotta Kick Me When I'm Down. And like I mentioned earlier, if you love this band for their early work, do not listen to the song Heavy Metal. That kind of track was designed to make fanboys pissy, like damn. While I am one of those people that really likes the more electronic bent these guys have been taking lately, I gotta admit this is probably the breaking point for this particular direction. I admire them for continuing to experiment, and like I said, this album isn't without standout moments, but as a whole, it just feels super sloppy. There's a lot of songs on here that really could have used a bit more time in the oven to cook. This album hasn't been eaten by the Imagine Dragon, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I could see a few teeth marks showing. But it's not worst of the year material or anything to me. I get why people are upset about this one, for sure. If this isn't your jam, trust me, I feel ya. But I mean, we'll probably see worse in 2019, I'd wager. Hell, if this ends up being the worst album of 2019, then we are in for a very pleasant ride, people. Count your blessings. Ammo gets 3 Black Dahlia t-shirts out of 5. Okay, that's the absolutely mandatory album out of the way. How about we spend a little time just hyping up an album I'm super excited for? Fever 333. Man, I was looking forward to this one. Those of you that have been watching my show for a long time may remember me mentioning a little band called Let Live. In fact, you may very well remember this particular clip from my Best of 2016 list.
And these guys are sure as hell gonna be a voice to be paying attention to over the next few years.
Yeah, and then the fuckers went and broke up. Gah! Yeah, that one was a major heartbreaker for me. But then last year, I caught wind of another project involving their former lead singer, Jason Butler. It was going to be a supergroup of sorts, involving Stephen Harrison from The Chariot and Eric Importa from Night Verses. I caught the EP they dropped last year, and truth be told, I was kind of on it personally, but after hearing their latest full-length debut, Strength in Numbers, okay, I get it, and I think I'm officially on board for this project. It did take a minute for me to get into it, though. See, what we have here in this new band is a tasty piece of something we really don't see a lot of anymore. Rapcore. Yeah, I do love me a good rapcore album when I can get my hands on it, though I don't blame you if that descriptor alone has you feeling a little hesitant. God knows that genre has had some pretty big missteps in the past, but people, just trust me on this one, okay? This is an album that's more in the vein of Rage Against the Machine or early Linkin Park as opposed to, say, Hollywood Undead. Yeah, no, this is the good side of rapcore, people. Butler was always very verbose and lyrical in his vocal stylings with Let Live, so it doesn't really surprise me at all that he'd have equally solid skills as an MC. His flow is very distinct, and he has a very sharp, almost violent sounding spit to his delivery on this record. The album is all about intensity, and Butler delivers very hard on this record. Even on the opening track, that's basically just like a setup skit for the first song proper, you can tell that Butler is here to shout you right the fuck down. And once Burn It finally does kick in, man, does he deliver on those promises. His performance is intense, and so are the topics they cover on this record. Make no mistake, this is a blunt force album with a blunt force message to deliver. It's a very socially conscious record with a lot to say about systematic oppression, racial prejudices, and the overall generally fucked up state of affairs we're currently living in here in America. And it delivers that particular message with a fire, rigor, and ferocity that begins at minute 1 and doesn't let up once until the very end. Man, it's just a fun and exciting ride through and through. Taken on its own merits, this album is an absolute stomper. I'd be tempted to say we have the first album of the year candidate on our hands here, but it is only January. Give me a break, people. I can understand if some of the more rapcore-ish elements here aren't everyone's thing. They're not gonna be everyone's thing, okay? And hell, the almost giddily abrasive nature and delivery of this music almost seems to invite a certain amount of disdain. But that's kind of what I love so much about it. It's an album with hair on its chest. It's an album with a huge set of balls. It's God, why do all the metaphors for boldness have to be centered around male physiology? That's sexist as fuck, isn't it? It's got some oaves that could crush the shit out of you, man. Oaves, dude, oaves! I really, really did enjoy it. Though, there is one bit of criticism I have that kind of bugs me. And it's one of those criticisms that's like totally mean and not cool and even slightly fair to hold it against them. As much as I like this new project, it sure as hell isn't Let Live. Ow. See what I mean? No, that's not fair. That's not even slightly fair. This is a completely different act with a completely different ethos and feel and vibe going for it. And if you do intend to use this band as like a replacement for Let Live, well then, yeah, it's not gonna plug that particular hole very well, because this isn't Let Live, it's very far away from Let Live. And if that particular fact is something that gets in the way of your enjoyment of this album, I do get that to a degree, as unfair as it is. I mean, even if Let Live wasn't a factor though, this is a band that's doing something wholeheartedly different. I mean, this is just one of those reviews where I kinda have to hang a little caveat at the end of it. One of those, I really liked it, but if it's not your thing, I totally understand kinda deals. But if you can dig into a heavily focused rapcore sound and can push aside all of the expectations you would have from all of these guys' other bands and just let this thing be its own thing, then I think you'll find that you are in for a smart, sophisticated, and stomping as hell good time with this record. Strength in Numbers gets 4.5 oaves out of 5.
Super special thanks to Kyler Aram and Mo Madison. Wow.